Wait, before we continue with the video, I have an important announcement to make. SoyaCincau is hiring! We are looking for driven, like-minded individuals to join our growing team. But wait, you might be wondering, why would I want to work here? Well, let me show you. You get access to incredible studios like this and all of this cool equipment.
Hey, I'm trying to work here. Can you get out of here? What the?
We even offer a grooming allowance. Yeah? No? Okay. Even coffee from our local kopitiam. Thanks, Cherry. So, are you interested? Hit the link below to see what positions we have available.
Originally, this was supposed to be a simple review of the Volvo XC40 Recharge Twin, the electric version of Volvo's smallest SUV. And yes, I will tell you all about this car in this video. But I've been driving this car for a few days and folks, there's a lot we still need to talk about. On the face of it, the Volvo XC40 Recharge Twin is as simple as electric cars get. It's an XC40 with a big battery underneath and an electric motor instead of a petrol engine. Actually, make that two motors, hence the name. We're used to EVs having sleek, futuristic designs, but the XC40 looks almost exactly the same as the petrol model. That would be a disappointment for most cars, but the Volvo looks so good already that, to be honest, I don't really care. I like the blocky design, the Thor's hammer headlights, the upswept window line, and the signature vertical taillights. I also like the black roof and the recharge script on the C-pillars. It all just works, especially in the denim blue paint of our test car. The only thing I don't like is the blanked off grille, which to me looks like a rushed job. It's too simple and it looks cheap. Actually, this particular unit is already outdated because there's already a facelifted model. Thankfully, if you put your order in now, you'll get the updated 2023 version. There's one other thing I'd like to point out. The taillights look nice, but the brake lights use normal bulbs instead of LEDs. They are slower to light up and may cause those driving behind you to react later in an emergency stop. That could make a difference between them stopping in time and a costly body shop bill, or worse. That's not great coming from Volvo, a company supposedly obsessed with safety. The interior will be very familiar to those who have used the recent Volvo. There's a simple but pleasant design that gives off a real Scandinavian vibe, and the large portrait touchscreen is reminiscent of Tesla's from a few years ago. Added to that are some thoughtful features designed into the cabin, such as a card holder under the screen and a rubbish bin that you can remove to empty it out. That's really cool. There's also a parking ticket holder at the base of the windscreen, but that's not really so useful now that everything is done through your phone these days. I tried putting my house RFID card in there, but it didn't really work. Build quality feels just about okay. Everything is well put together and you get some nice touches like these chrome air vents and these cool silver trim on the dashboard. The seats, which are very comfortable by the way, are also upholstered in this leather and suede combination, which feels quite premium. And you've also got this nice little Swedish flag tab on it. But the dashboard materials are quite hard, even though they're technically soft touch. And the doors and the center console are made out of this hard, sort of satin finish plastic that Europeans seem to like to put in their cars, and I don't like it. It feels too cheap, it attracts fingerprints, and it looks like it gets scratched up quite easily. Unlike the regular XC40, the EV version gets Volvo's latest infotainment system based on the Android Automotive OS. That means you get access to all of Google services, including the Play Store. Don't expect the app selection that you'll find on Android phones, however. Everything has to be optimized for use in the car, so the app selection is a little bit bare. You do at least get the Google Assistant and the integrated Google Maps, which is much more useful and reliable compared to the usual built-in navigation systems. It's very well integrated, and you can also search for the nearest charging station through the app. The 9-inch touchscreen is sharp with lots of contrast and it's very responsive. The only problem is that the aircon controls are all hidden in a separate menu, including the fan speed. You can adjust the temperature at the bottom of the screen, but the arrows are tiny and easy to miss. The 12.3-inch instrument display is also very legible. Better yet, Google Maps is integrated right in the screen, which means the map is nicely in your field of view. You don't have to look at the touchscreen all of the time. Unfortunately, that's all you can do with this display. There's all this screen real estate, but you can't really customize it. You can only bring up your trip computer and turn the map display on or off. You can't put the current song on there, and you can't even see the range unless the battery gets under a certain percentage. That is a huge oversight for an electric vehicle, and it definitely amps up the range anxiety quite a bit. The rest of the cabin is a little basic, but it works. There's decent rear headroom and legroom is okay, but you're not going to mistake this for a limo back here. The main problem is the backrest. It's too upright and you can't really recline it like you can in some other SUVs. Also, the fact that this uses a conventional car platform means that despite this being an electric vehicle, there's a huge transmission tunnel for the middle passenger to straddle. Volvo did put some of the battery cells underneath this tunnel instead of under the floor, so your feet aren't pushed up like they would be in some other EVs. You also get amenities like rear aircon vents, 2 USB-C ports and 2 cup holders. The boot measures 418 litres, which is slightly smaller than the petrol models, but it's still big enough for most road trips. There's some space underneath for your charging cables, and you can even hang your shopping bags on the hooks that are built into the floor, which forms a little divider when it's folded. Do you need more luggage space? There's a small cubbyhole underneath the bonnet where an engine would reside. At 31 litres, it's not big by any means, but it's double what you'll get in a Hyundai Ioniq 5. You can put a charging cable in there or a small duffel bag for a weekend away. Starting the XC40 EV could not be any simpler. You don't have to faff around with a starter button or a parking brake. You simply get in, foot on the brake, pull this gear lever and away you go. Initially, the XC40 feels just like any other EV to drive. It's quiet and the torque response is immediate. The throttle pedal is also very long and progressive, so you're not going to rocket straight into the car in front of you. You could be fooled into thinking that this is just your regular, fast-ish electric SUV. And then you put your foot down, Jesus Christ, you realize just how fast this thing actually is. Oh my god. The numbers are insane. 402 horsepower and 660 Nm of torque, making this the most powerful EV you can officially buy in Malaysia. That's roughly the same amount of power and torque that you get in Volvo's plug-in hybrids. But in this, there's no downshift. You don't wait for the engine to wake up or get going. Here, you get pushed back into your seat and just watch as your eyelids get pulled back and the car just flies forwards. Volvo claims this thing will get from 0 to 100 km an hour in 4.9 seconds, which is nearly as fast as the latest Volkswagen Golf R. We timed our test car 3 times and it was bang on the money every time. The top speed, on the other hand, is limited to 180 km per hour as part of Volvo's campaign to reduce speeding. All this speed comes with no drama and no noise. There is a little bit of road noise coming from the Pirelli P0 EV tyres, so it's not quite as refined as it could be, although wind noise is kept at a minimum. Despite the sheer performance on tap, the throttle pedal is linear, so you can easily dial in just the amount of power you want. The brakes, however, are quite sharp, and that makes it a bit difficult to drive the car smoothly. By default, the XC40 comes with no regenerative braking. Lift off the throttle and the car will just coast instead of slowing down. There is a one-pedal driving mode, but it's buried deep in the settings. Again, the transition between acceleration and braking is quite sudden, but you'll get used to it. You know, I just wish they could have added some way to adjust regen braking, perhaps using paddles on the steering wheel. Now, the XC40 has a 78 kWh battery, and that will give you a range of up to 418 kilometers. That's roughly the same as what you get in the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is also all-wheel drive, although it has a slightly smaller battery and much less power. Suffice to say that in most driving conditions, you don't really think much of the range at all. You just get to wherever you want to go, and at the end, you get home and you plug the car in. I have to say that during our long shoots, and especially with some performance driving thrown into the mix, the battery did drain quite quickly, so you should bear that in mind if you have a long day of driving ahead of you. One thing you do notice when you're driving this car is how firm the suspension is. It's not rock hard, but sometimes when you're going over a bump or a pothole, the impact is a little bit harder than you expect, and you go, oof. It is a little bit jarring. If you're looking for something that's very comfortable, this might not be the car for you. The suspension has to be this firm because it needs to support the weight of the car at over 2 tons and the amount of power this thing has. I mean, this has almost as much power as a Mercedes-AMG A45S and a lot more torque. And nobody complains about that car being stiff. But I do understand that people looking at this car probably just want a comfortable grocery getter. Perhaps Volvo could have added adaptive dampers so you can make the ride softer if you're just driving to the supermarket and back. The result of all this is a car that feels quite rigid on the road. This might look like a fun little SUV, but the moment you drive it, you realize this is a serious machine. As you'd expect from a Volvo, the XC40 comes with all the driver assists you could want, including adaptive cruise control and lane centering assist for level 2 autonomous driving. Now, you may have watched other reviewers say that Volvo's automated driving system is much improved and it can now be relied for driving on Malaysian roads. But I found that this was a lot of, shall we say, horse manure. The car kept pulling to the left, which was a little disconcerting. Worse still, it often didn't self-center quickly enough when I was rounding off a bend, meaning that I had to take evasive action to avoid hitting the car next to me. I once had to swerve so hard that my colleagues in the car behind me thought I was falling asleep and checked to see if I was okay. Most of the time, I just got fed up, disabled it, and just drove myself, and that's never the goal. Right, let's talk charging. If you start off with a flat battery, a full charge with this 3-pin charger takes around 40 hours. Yep, that's nearly 2 days with this thing. You're much better off with a wall box charger. The XC40 can accept up to 11 kilowatts of AC charging power, and that will fill up the battery in around 7 to 8 hours. Yes, that's still quite a long time, and it also means the car cannot take full advantage of the 22 kilowatt chargers currently being offered by Charge EV. A DC fast charging station is your best bet, if you can find one. The XC40 supports up to 150 kilowatts of charging, and that will charge the battery from 10 to 80% in just 28 minutes, adding up to 100 kilometers of range in 10 minutes. This is where this simple review goes on a bit of a tangent. See, finding a charging station is one thing, and in the Klang Valley at least, you can pretty much plug in at almost every shopping mall. But finding a charger that actually works is a whole different story. No, we didn't drive the XC40 to Penang like we did the Hyundai Kona Electric, but I encountered exactly the same issues that Rory did. We tried to charge the car 5 times during our shoot. 3 of them were Charge EV stations that did not work, including one in Bangsar where you'd expect it to work, given how popular the area is. And when we did get to a place that had 2 charging stations, the one that was working was being hogged by a plug-in hybrid who had left the car plugged in for 12 hours. The other station, it wasn't working. By the way, hoggers, you want to hog the right lane on highway? Fine, I don't care. But can you not hog charging stations? You know what they say about hoggers, right? You guys have a small After going to another station that was either not working or not open to the public, we finally found a working Charge EV charger deep in Cyberjaya. It was a stressful experience, and while we were very excited to find a charger, it really shouldn't be this way.
So we've been to, I think, was it 4 charging stations right now? 3 of them charge EVs, and out of all of them, only 1 has worked. I mean, we got here in the nick of time. We have 20% of battery left, and we still have a night of shooting to go. Hopefully this will get us to the right amount that we can do the things that we want to do. We haven't had dinner. We've been finding a charging port since about 8 o'clock, and it's now 9:30. It's been hell just trying to find a charger around here. The thing I want to point out is that the whole charging infrastructure right now, that's the whole bedrock of how EVs are supposed to work. It's the good thing having all these cars being sold in Malaysia at a very cheap price for Malaysian supply, but if we can't have the charging infrastructure, it's all useless. You know, if you have to hunt, yeah, okay, we are in Cyberjaya right now. Maybe it's not so difficult, but the one that I went to earlier today, which was in Bangsa, that also didn't work. So I don't know what to say, man. The charging network really needs to improve, and companies like Charge EV really need to step out the game, because if there are a lot of EVs on the road today and they're all going to face the same problems, you're going to have a whole lot of problems on your hands. And I would just like to point out, this is not the car's fault. The car has been pretty much faultless. It drives well, it's very, very fast, it's got a lot of nice features, but a car is only as good as the charging infrastructure, and right now the charging infrastructure is almost hopeless. So there you go. If you're looking to buy a car, any electric car, not just the Volvo, it's a great investment. Just beware that this is the thing that's going to happen to you.
So, where does this leave us? We'll start by talking about the car itself. The XC40 is a very fast, very good-looking premium electric SUV. It's not as intimidating or as aggressively futuristic as the Hyundai Ioniq 5, but it's also not as dull as the Mercedes-Benz EQA. And it's definitely nowhere near as ugly. It's hard to think of a better bargain for under 300,000 ringgit. Yes, it is a lot of money, but you get my point. But I'm sorry, it's hard to separate the car from the experience of charging it, which has been completely spoiled for me. After all, an electric vehicle is only as good as the charging infrastructure that supports this, and Charge EV has really dropped the ball here. And I'm sure it's not the only one. And yes, I know, it is a bit harsh to put all of this in the review of the XC40, because none of this is the fault of the car. But this is a review. We have to tell you the unvarnished truth of what this car is like to live with. It is also our journalistic duty to speak out about these things and make sure these companies do better. Let me also just make one thing quite clear. I am not an EV hater. Yes, I come from an automotive background. Yes, I love petrol engines, and yes, I drive a manual car. But I also like driving electric cars, and after a few days of getting used to the stiff ride and the sharp brakes, I really grew to enjoy this car, and I could see myself living with it every day. Until that is, I had to charge it. All this is to say that the XC40 Recharge Twin is a good car, and a great EV. But as with all EVs, unless you're ready for the headache of charging it, you might want to hold off until the infrastructure is not only more extensive, but also more reliable. And just the fact that I had to say that is a great shame. Thank you so much for watching this review of the Volvo XC40 Recharge Twin. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. As always, stay awesome. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.